What you see in the vise is a little variation on the old favourite, the Soldier Palmer. So without further ado, let's get into it. The hook in the vise then is a Hanak H230 barbless hook. This one's at size 8, it's on a heavy wire and it's finished in black nickel. The thread we're going to use today is from Simplify. It's nano silk at 50D or 12/0, and as you can see it's black. First thing, as always with the nano silks, is to get a little bit of super glue onto the shank of the hook. This just stops body rotation, which we don't want in our flies. So I'm going to catch my thread just in behind the eye and run a bed of silk all the way down the shank to approximately where a barb would be on a barbed hook. Once you've done that, you can remove your rat's tail, and the first thing we're going to do is add in our tail, and what I'm going to be using is some Arctic Fox. As you can see, it's been dyed red, and the reason I'm using this is I just don't have any red wool. That's traditionally what, I'm just showing it up to the shank. Maybe just got a wee bit too much there. Traditionally the Soldier Palmer would have had a red wool tail that would have been proffed from your granny's knitting bag, and you would have catched on with that. So I'm going to catch that in. I'm just going to bring my thread up to just about 3mm shy of the eye. I just want to try and keep the body nice and even, and then I'm going to bring my thread back down, tying in that material, and then I can come in with my scissors, and I want my tag to be about 1.5 centimetres, no longer. And I think the Arctic Fox works particularly well with this fly, simulates the wool very well. Next then, we're going to add a rib, and I'm going to be using some Simplify 0.01 in silver. I'll just take a little bit of that off, and then I'm going to catch that in the entire length of the body. Just make sure it's in place, and then you can just crisscross back down to where your tail starts. Now, for the dubbing, you can use various different things. Now, I'm going to use a custom blend here from Trout Stalkers, and originally this was meant to be for hot spots on collars of bugs, but I've just thought it would work well with this pattern, and it seems to do a job for me, so I'm going to use that. You can use whatever you like. If you've got some orange dubbing or red dubbing works, it doesn't matter. I'm a great fan of use what you've got and don't be worrying about getting the ingredients piece exactly right. I'll just need a little bit more. I always find it's better to add than to try and scrape it off later. I'll just spread that out a bit. I don't want it too bulky. Like so. And that's just about bang on the money. Now, an important point to note is I've still got bags of room at the front here, and you need to be wary of that your materials don't creep forward towards the eye, or you will have problems later on. Now, I'm going to use some feathers from Ban fly tying. Now, I can't afford to keep buying different capes and different colours, and what Ban Valley have done, they've got some Mets capes and they've broke them down into affordable little packs, which is ideal for a tyer like myself who doesn't tie commercially, and I don't sell flies, so it works out quite well for me using these flies. These hackles. So what I've done is I've got taken one out of the packet and I've prepared it by stripping back some of the fibres, and before I attach it to the body of my fly, I'm just going to get some wax on, and this just helps grip the feather. So I'll just catch that in on my side, 2 or 3 turns, and then what I'm going to do is bring my thread all the way to the front near the eye, and I'm going to get several turns in at the front. And the reason I've done that is I'm going to use the rotary function on my fly tying vise to bring my palmer up the body of the fly. So I'll just catch the tip of the feather in, and I'm going to bring that round like so. Now the first turn I'm virtually going to come upon itself, and then after that I can start palmering up the fly. Just be careful to avoid the point of your hook. The last thing you want is for the feather to clip that and snap away. That'll ruin your day. So I brought my palmer all the way down, and now I've got my wire that we tied in earlier. I'm going to bring that over, just going to hook that up out the way, and then what I can do is try and keep the spacing as even as you can, but again, it's not a big showstopper if your spacing's out a little. The purpose of this rib is to hold your palmer into place and make sure the fly lasts for a little bit of time. So I'm going to just get a couple of turns in to hold that into place, and then a few turns in front, and I can twist away my wire rib. Then simply come in and remove your excess feather. That's looking not too bad. Good enough for government work. Okay, so next I'm going to add a feather from this cape. Now, it's a cape I bought, I couldn't resist, it was on Facebook, it looked a lovely colour, and I bought it and it came, and I thought, oh, what am I going to do with that? And I've ended up finding quite a few uses for different flies. So I've already got a feather that I've picked out earlier, and as you can see, I've cleaned away some of the fibres from the stalk. I'm just going to shorten that a little bit, and once more I'm going to add a little bit of wax to get grip on my feather. Now, it's going to make the fly look very red initially, but if you bear with me and stay till the end of the video, I'm going to address that. So once I've caught that in, I'm going to bring my thread to the front, find my hackle pliers once more. And what I want to do with this feather is just bend it, see which way it wants to go, and I can see it wants to go the opposite way to my palmer. I want to get 2 or 3 turns, and then that's going to do me. Bring everything back. I'm going to bring my thread, release a few turns there, bring my thread back. Want to try and keep the front of the fly as thin as possible so I can get a nice neat head. Couple of turns there, and then I can come in with my scissors and remove the excess. Okay, so far so good. I know it looks a bit of a mess at the minute, but it's going to come good, trust me. Okay, next and lastly, I've got this cape here. Now, I know it doesn't look much, but it's been a loyal servant for over 20 years, and there's a few feathers left at the bottom, and I've got a few of these larger feathers left at the top. Now I've already picked out one of the larger feathers from the top, and as you can see, it's a nice soft hackle, and that's what I'm going to use to subdue all the colour that's currently in this fly. Again, I'll add a little bit of wax. I'm going to use my thumb and forefinger in my left hand to sweep everything back. Have a little tidy up at the front here. And then I can catch in that feather. At the stalk. Now, the soldier palmer's been around for an awful long time, and a lot of people really like it. But that's not to say that it can't be changed or moved around. I'm not one for thinking that fly patterns need to be tied with the exact same materials in the exact same way. And even if you go onto Google and you look up soldier palmer, you'll see about 5 or 6 different variations of the fly itself being sold as a soldier palmer. But use what you've got. I'm going to catch that in now. I don't want to over chance my arm with the turns of the hackle here, because at the end of the day I've still got to create my head. So I've got that. The feathers are sticking together, but I can alleviate that in a bit. So I'm going to pull everything back out the way. I'm going to shorten my thread up. The shorter you have the thread, the more control you've got over your turns. So always try and keep a nice short thread, and that will help you out with your thread control. So I'm just now using the nano silk to build a small head. I'm fairly happy with that, and I know I've got that secured, and I'm confident enough just to pull that away. Just slick all that back. Now before I come in with the whip finish tool, I'm going to add a little bit of varnish, sorry, a little bit of UV resin to the thread. Again, make sure everything's back out the way. Just try and remove that stray bit of thread. I don't want that getting captured in with the UV. And then once that's removed, you can come in with your UV torch and cure the resin off. Now it still looks a bit of a mess, and I wouldn't be putting it in my fly box like this. So the last thing then is to come in with a toothbrush or a softer brush. You don't want to be using Velcro on this. A nice soft toothbrush will give you a much more pleasing effect. If you come in with a Velcro, you can end up destroying the fly, especially if you're a little bit heavy-handed. And there we have the finished article.